today we have a really special treat for you. It's something I've hinted around at, but we've been trying to get this sorted out for weeks. And because of this, that, and the other, it didn't happen till today. But today, we get to meet with one of Great Britain's most popular macro photographers. Today, we're talking to Stewart Wood from just north of Birmingham in the United Kingdom. And we're going to talk about macro photography. Welcome, Stewart. Glad you could make it.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to finally be here. Like you said, it's been several weeks trying to get this to work and coordinate and this and that.
Getting two macro photographers together, or two YouTube macro photographers together, it's a wonder it ever happens at all. But I'm glad we're finally doing it. I have loads of questions for you. Some of them are mine. Some of them are from the audience. I've had an opportunity to ask some questions to get you to answer, and obviously we're going to focus on your claim to fame. Is your uniquely gentle and thoughtful way of treating your subjects, and you set a very high standard. And it's definitely one of the things that I want to talk about is how our photography differ, and how I've got a lot to learn. How long have you been doing this? Were you born as a professional macro photographer?
Oh God, no! I mean, it's a long story. A lot of people on my channel already know this, but I got my first camera in 2007, just as my son was born. A good friend of mine bought me my camera, my first one, which was a Canon. And you know what happens when you get a camera? You photograph everything you could possibly see, don't you?
Yep.
Your models, landscapes, skies, stars, moons, stupid cat's balls that you photographed, you know. But I have suffered from anxiety and depression for several years. I still do suffer from it, to be honest with you.
Really?
And and I for a 2-year period in my life, I didn't touch the camera. I just put it down, didn't bother with it. And when I came out of that bout, the only thing I really missed was the macro side of stuff. So in a way, I kind of found out exactly which route I needed to go down to get me back on the track to get back into the photography.
Wow.
And I wouldn't suggest people to go down that route of depression to find out which one photography is yours type. But that's how I found out what I wanted to get into, and that was around 2016, I believe it was.
Have you found other people in your travels who've also found macro through adversity? I know that I've met many people. It was the same way I got into it.
When I started opening up about the depression, a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, I've had that as well. I found the same thing," and they found freedom in photography. If it wasn't for photography, I probably wouldn't even leave the house. I've got no need to, you know. And so it was just one of
That's
them things, you know. And I still don't know why I suffered from it. There's nothing happened in my life. It just all of a sudden just got up and just couldn't do nothing. Couldn't go out the house. Couldn't get on with things. It's really bad. It's weird. It's a weird thing. You can't explain it.
No,
you know?
no,
really
it's a debilitating and very common. I mean, not to the degree you're describing, but it just is life ruining. And finding something that is creative and exciting and enjoyable that will lift you out of it really is a lifesaver. I must say. Well, it's been a great help for me. I know that you've been doing this longer than I have, and at the beginning, you were very much inspirational to me in getting started in taking this on. One of the things
good to hear.
Good.
I do like to inspire people. The world needs more macro photographers. You know, I mean, when you go to events like the photography show, for instance, macro is like one of those low end genres of photography that hardly anyone ever talks about. So I'm on a goal to try and change that. You know.
Well, this is a good way to do it. It's also been my goal since day one. Is not so much to spread the word about macro for any reason other than people need to know how much fun it is, because they're missing out. And
Yeah.
you don't need a lot of expensive equipment. You don't need years and years of practice, though it helps. But it's too much fun for people not to know about, and,
The
especially
one thing the
photographers.
one thing I want to get people to move away is as soon as you say macro, people think bugs and spiders,
Yes,
whereas it's not. You know, if you don't like bugs and spiders, you don't have to photograph bugs and spiders. You can go out there and photograph morning dew, or go out after
abs-
it's rained and get the water drops. You know, it's not just
absolutely.
bugs and spiders, but bugs and spiders are good.
The problem with me is I am a self-confessed bug and spider photographer.
Yeah.
So my default is to just start talking about bugs. And I was so bothered by the fact that it was automatic that a few months ago I made a video about all the other things that I photograph as a macro photographer. And I realized there's a lot of things to photograph, a lot of small things, which was
Yeah.
part of setting up the competition that we have so that we could experience all these other exciting things you can do. You've got to
Yeah.
enter our competition. I bet you'd end up winning.
I'll be honest with you, I don't do competitions at all.
Neither do I. I
I
run
can't.
them. I get too nervous.
Yeah, I'll get nervous. And I don't know, I've had bad experiences with competitions in the past when I wasn't doing macro photography, where a lot of them were just popularity contests. You see it a lot on
Mhm.
Facebook. You'll see someone post, "Oh, I've entered this competition. Go vote for my image," and all their fans go vote it for. Whether it's a good image or not
Yeah,
is not the question, you know. But I can do without that stress, you know. I just like to do my thing, and if you want to follow my work and follow the channel, then that's great. You know, you do that. And, you know,
that's
people ask me questions and I will answer those questions for you, you know?
yeah, that's exactly the same approach I have. I just don't
Yeah.
see. I don't see this as being a competitive sport, though.
Mhm.
I found that if you do it on a very light-hearted basis, like we do on my channel, the
Mm.
monthly competition, which is a themed thing, it gets newcomers to get out of their shell a little bit and take a risk. And I think that's great for photography. It's great for them, and it's great for me because I love looking at the pictures. We get
Yeah, yeah.
some cracking pictures.
I like doing critiques and stuff like that to
Yeah,
help
yeah,
people. I haven't done any for about a year, which we'll get onto why that is in a bit.
yeah.
But it's coming back. It'll come
Let's
back.
talk about that let's talk about that, because in going back and looking at the genesis of your channel, it looks a bit like mine in that you've got everything on there. You've done a bit of everything.
Mm.
You're always trying new stuff, and it's very creative.
Yeah,
Um,
I like to always move forward. I don't like looking backwards, which is why you won't find many videos that repeat things I've already done. That's a mistake when it comes to YouTube because if you follow the YouTube channels that teach YouTube, they say, look at the popular video that you got and repeat it again, and just
mhm.
keep updating. I've got to start doing that to help the channel grow because if the channel doesn't grow, I don't get an income, I don't get to buy new gear to try out new things.
Oh, I
But
know.
yeah. Okay, you do know, don't you?
I do
Yeah, I've
know.
thought, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I noticed that I don't really pay attention to subscribers
mm,
numbers, mine or anybody else's, except when I'm doing an interview. I always look to see, how has the channel grown? And you've got a very healthy channel in the macro. I thought I had a healthy channel. You've got a lot of people follow you and have been for a while.
it
That's
was all helped through COVID. When COVID hit and everyone was in their kitchens, first thing to type in, "What can you photograph at home?" Macro, the top subject to photograph at
Yep.
home. And I was getting 5,000-6,000 new subscribers a month during that first lockdown in the
Were you
UK.
really?
Yeah.
We never really had that kind of lockdown over here. It was all very spotty around the
Mm.
country. Different, it happened in a different way. We
We
didn't
was
have
just
that.
locked down straight away, bang.
Yeah,
You ain't
yeah.
going out, don't bother.
I'm from Sussex. I'm from the other end of London from you,
Yeah.
and and
Yes,
uh,
you are, aren't
and,
you?
and
Yeah.
all my brothers live over there. So I was well keeping up with how disruptive it was,
If
but it just wasn't
that's
ever
the that's
that
the
way over.
thing, that the country went into lockdown. You weren't allowed to go out for, your work. You was allowed to go out for exercise once a day and you're allowed to do the shopping, the essentials. But you've got to remember, I suffered from anxiety and depression. That was like a normal Tuesday to me.
Yeah.
So everything was just carry on as normal for me. So I just carried
Yeah.
on as normal. And then all these subscribers started coming in, a lot of new people. And I think what really did it for me is I can't remember his name. There's a landscape photographer, Thomas Heaton, I believe his name
Thomas,
was.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he did a macro. He was doing macro, and
Yes, that's it.
my one of my videos got featured on the end of his. You know, it's got like play next on the YouTube
Mhm.
videos.
Yeah.
It got featured on the end of one of his, so I got a lot of subscribers off that. It's interesting where people find you. You know, it's
That
really
is interesting. I
yeah
didn't even know that was a thing. That
yeah. If you can put end things onto your video, like
right, right, right. I
you
do
can
that.
fully customize it. You can put your own videos on there, but there's an option there where you can go. It's just a simple best next best video for the viewer
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yep,
That's
yep.
what he did. He just put best for the viewer, and my video kept popping up all the time. And I was like, "Hey,
Fantastic.
this is great. This is yeah,
That's good because I've often wanted to have somebody's video follow mine, one that was
mm.
particularly cogent to what I'd done. But I never could figure out how to pick that
It's just
specific video.
it's just the algorithm. It's just
It's
it
a
does it.
mystery to me.
Yeah. I mean, we could go on for hours about the algorithm. Really, we could.
Do,
I
do
hate it.
you do you worry a lot about that? Do you make decisions based on the algorithm and how you think?
Um, See, my next video is about this. I go in chapters in my life. Chapter one was starting YouTube. Chapter two was the old studio, which is all about pleasing YouTube. Chapter three, which is this new studio, is about I don't care about the YouTube algorithm no more. Literally, I'm just going to do what I want when I want to do it. And if people want to like and follow it, they're welcome to do that. If the algorithm doesn't pick it up, I'm not really that bothered, to be honest with you, because it was too much stress. You know, we
Hmm.
sit last year I was sitting there next to a pool with dragonflies flying around, and I'm sitting there thinking, "How can I make this video go viral or trigger the algorithm?" Instead of just enjoying the photography, you
Yeah,
know? And it's just like, if you try and do YouTube and hit that algorithm, you 1, you're not gonna succeed, and 2,
yeah,
you're just gonna find it miserable, you
yeah.
know? And then when you get miserable, you don't wanna create videos, and
Hmm.
then that's it, the whole thing just collapses. So this new chapter, which I'll call in chapter 3, again, you'll see that in my next video, it's just all about me being creative, doing what I want when I wanna do it, and just putting out the content when it's done, when it's finished, not on a particular schedule, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 videos a week or 1 a month,
Yep.
you know? Just get it done, you know?
That's how I started because
Yeah.
I didn't think anybody would ever watch a video, and for a couple of
I
weeks I
didn't.
was right, they didn't. So
No.
I never did know what the algorithm was or what it meant or how you could improve your
That's
numbers. It just
that
made
is the
videos.
problem with the algorithm. It changes every 6 months. So, you know, if you're a slow learner like I am, where, you know, you wanna learn what the algorithm is, how to trigger it, by the time you've learned it, they've changed it again.
They changed it, yeah.
So I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna give up. I'm just gonna go out and just do what I want. And if people find it, they find it. If not, then, you know,
I was
it is
talking
what
to
it is."
another European macro photographer about 6 months ago, and he was telling me that the secret was to have one viral video. Have
Yes.
one viral video, and you're done. From that point on, you'll be on the radar, and
Hmm.
they'll pick you up. So I've got to figure out how to have a viral video. I've had 500 videos that all were kind of sickly, but didn't have a virus. So,
Yeah.
so
It
what does your now as you're in this new chapter of your life? What does your work week look like? Are you macro 24/7, or do you have other
filmmaking
interests?
Filmmaking 24/7. I've
Ah,
really got into the filmmaking side of stuff. I mean, I wish there was a local photographer or macro photographer I could just film and do videos about instead of me being the presenter.
yeah,
Because you very well know it's very hard to do macro and film yourself. Now, luckily, I
yeah,
have the wife that follows me around, but I really do like the filmmaking side of stuff. I really want to
do
capture
you?
a jumping spider jumping, but I haven't got the frame rates to do that yet. It's on my to-do list. Um, but yeah, it's literally I have scheduled videos that I have to make. Those are mostly the review videos. I have one for a light, a GMV light over there. I've got
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah,
sliders I've got to do review for, and as you know, you've done reviews. They have dates they have to be released by. You
yeah.
know, You receive this product, get a video out by 4 weeks. Those have to be planned. But all the other stuff that's just like just me being creative, me in the studio, or me just being outside, is literally I just get up and go, well, let's go do this, or let's go do that.
Yeah.
And literally all it is I go out, go to a certain location, you have a look around. If I get an image I like, we start recording. That's just the way it goes. If I don't get anything, I don't bother recording because it's not going to be a very interesting video for people to watch, you know? So that's just the way we do it. Basically, we just wing 50% of it, you know?
Yeah, that's what I do. It's all the best
Yeah.
videos are unplanned, and they're the ones that you're excited to be doing. I
They're
don't
the ones you're sitting there editing away, bang, 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 and you go,
Yeah,
"Oh, this one's gonna be brilliant. This one will take off." And then when you put it up, 1,000 people watching, it just tanks.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's the one.
I don't look at that. I
Yeah,
don't even couldn't tell you how many people watched the last video I made. I just don't. It doesn't seem to make any difference other than make me anxious for the next time. But yeah,
that's what it was all like last year. That's why this year I'm just like, you know what? I'm doing what you're gonna do. I'm just gonna not look at the numbers, just go with it, and more importantly, enjoy myself while I'm doing it.
yeah,
Because
because that's when people like it, is when
yeah,
they are connecting to it, and that's what you do so well, and what I need to do better.
mm,
When you talk about catching a jumping spider in mid jump, one of my viewers donated to the channel at the end of last year, right as the weather started getting cold, one of the Cognisys trigger systems.
mm,
The Stack Shop people make this high-speed trigger system for catching insects in flight.
right.
And yeah, I'm going to take that out and set it up in a flower bed, and hopefully I'll get some
Mm,
stuff in midair. Hope
I'll
so.
have
I've
to
never
take a
tried
look.
it before. It's a
That's the fun
gigantic
thing, though, isn't it?
machine.
It's fun just trying it, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll get something in flight, I'm sure.
Exactly.
I've got so many questions to ask, but you were talking about, before we got started, you were talking about cameras, and
Mm,
I know that lots of people want to hear about spiders, and we will get to spiders. But
yes, we will.
tell us a bit about your equipment, your video equipment, and your macro equipment.
Well, I'm currently running 2 EOS Rs, both that's for still and photography. I have OCD. I don't like having different camera bodies, so I have the same one. But
Me too.
this is my rig for my images. So it's a Canon EOS R. I've got the battery grip on here so that my pinky's got somewhere to rest. I don't like not having my pinky just waving around. I hate
Yeah,
it. On here we
nice.
have a Laowa 100mm EF lens that's adapted to the Canon EOS R, and I use the EF version of it because it's the only one in their lineup that has auto aperture, which really helps when focusing in macro. Because if you use a full manual lens, as you well know, you need a lot of light to
Yeah.
light up the subject to see it in your viewfinder. If you don't, if you're on a DSLR, for instance, your viewfinder would very dark, hard to
Yep.
see. On a mirrorless camera, you can bump up the brightness in your EVF, but the frame rate goes very, very low. You
Right.
get this like lag effect. So you're moving your camera back and forward to focus, and it's just lag, 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 lag. So I use that because of the auto aperture, so that lets more light in, and it only closes the aperture when I take the picture, which is very useful for focusing. And then
Nice.
on there, I have the Godox MF12 trim macro flash
How
with a
many do you
trigger.
use? Two.
Just
You got
two,
two?
just the two. Yeah, sometimes I only use one, to be honest with you. Sometimes
They're fantastic
they
flashes.
are great little flashes. Then
They
on there, I've
changed
got
everything for me.
they did, didn't they?
Yeah.
But on there, I've got a custom made Crafty Bells bonnet diffuser that I made myself. Unfortunately, they've gone out of business now.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they retired. So
That's nice. That's got matting in batting or whatever they call it inside it. So you can, or
no,
is
I
it just
just this top part, I just made it myself just to make it look a bit neater.
got it, got it. Oh,
Literally,
I see. So
yeah,
it's
it's
just
just a
really
reflector that just curves around. I have there's a build log on my Patreon page about how I made that,
uh-huh.
which is literally just a reflector with Velcro on, not just Velcro onto the top of there.
I made something similar that just snapped onto an old speed light, onto the front of a speed light, and directed the light down.
Mm.
But that looks like it would be a
It's
lot softer.
it do It doesn't soften. Well, the actual bonnet diffuser is fantastic. It just softens the light, wraps it around your subjects. The top part doesn't really do anything except make it just look neater.
Ah,
And what I found is that sometimes the bonnet would fall off the front of the lens, and with that on, it just doesn't. It don't go anywhere. It just doesn't fall off. It just stays in place, just more secure. You know.
you get a fair bit of wind where you are.
Yeah.
And I've seen
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of your outdoor videos where you were struggling to keep bits on your camera in the wind. Is that a
Yeah.
common problem in the summertime for you?
Yeah, we get wind all the time. Sometimes it's like everywhere else. Sometimes you go out and it's nice and still. Other times you got gale force winds, but that don't stop us, does it? We
Yeah,
always go
that
out and just carry
never
on. The only
stop.
thing that stops me is rain because my equipment isn't waterproof, so I don't go out in the rain.
Yeah, I'm too old to go out in the rain. I'll wait for the rain to stop. I've
Yeah.
got plenty I can photograph indoors without worrying
Tell
about
you,
that.
I'll tell you what though. I mean, when it does rain, and then you go out to the local woods, because our local woods is called Cannock Chase, and it's basically pine forest. They cut it down for the pine wood and that. But the smell of the pine when you go out after the rain is beautiful. It really
Oh
is.
gosh, yeah.
Love it.
It's about the only time in the summertime when it rains here. It rains in the afternoon for 10 minutes very heavily, and then the
Mm,
ground is so hot that you get this steam coming up and the insects just everywhere.
yeah.
this is an insect rich environment. And you use the same exact setup for in the studio as well as outside?
Yeah. Not a lot of people know. I really ought to make it more obvious. But the studio and the photography I do in the studio is designed to test my outdoor setup. So
Oh,
once it works in the studio, I know I can take it out and use it on live subjects out there. That's partly why they've got the spiders, which we'll get onto in a bit. But yeah, this is basically it's
interesting.
all handheld. I don't like using tripods. I hate tripods.
No, I don't use them either.
I
And
hate
I actually I hate the things. I bought a monopod once just to fit in and never use it. Use it to poke
yeah.
things with.
But
Caught a snake
generally,
with it
what I
once.
will do is, depending on the conditions, obviously, I'll try and expose for a black image without the flash. That way, the only thing lighting the subject is my flash, which I have full control over.
Right.
And then we simply put something in the background. I don't like black backgrounds as little as possible. I like colourful backgrounds. So if you've got a bush that you can just push around or angle your camera so that there is something in the background, because with the inverse square law of light, the flash just comes black if it's so far away. So that's why I have these background cards that I designed,
Yeah. I
available from
was
my website.
yeah, I was
But
actually looking at them this morning and that's a beautiful selection. What how did you make them? Just in Photoshop?
yeah, basically, I'll just take a bunch of pictures. I'm always taking pictures of textures.
Mhm.
Um,
Me too, yeah.
I like graveyards. It might sound morbid, but the back of gravestones are fantastic for textures because it's a flat surface, so you get the whole thing in focus.
Oh yeah.
I'll just colorize them, customize and blur them in areas. It's one of my favorite ones there. That's some
Yeah,
wicked
I love
texture.
that.
You
I
got
love
multiple
that.
different colors. You just got to move it up and down depending on what you want. Um,
When I saw those on your website, actually I saw them on your YouTube channel.
mm,
I was thinking I had done the same thing except digitally to use them with a tablet. So I just bring those
yeah,
my
yeah,
pictures up on a tablet and put them in the background. But that makes so
yeah.
much more sense outdoors.
The the magic ingredient there is a matte laminate, which protects it from moisture. So you can throw it into a wet bush and it's not going to get destroyed.
That's
When
cool.
I when I was testing them, I actually threw them out in a storm for 2 weeks during winter and then brought
Yeah.
them back in, wiped them down, perfectly okay they was. People keep screaming out for me to sell the physical ones, but I physically can't do it. It costs too much money. Um, a general one pack like this, because I got a really slow printer, a pack like this could take me 6 hours to create, you know?
Really.
Yeah, yeah.
They, so they are printed on photographic paper and then laminated front and back.
Yeah, it's just a matte heavyweight paper. I forget the grams. I think it's like 120 or something like that, and then just
Oh,
laminate
really heavy.
for a matte laminate. It's got to be matte because if you don't use matte, you'll get reflections off the flash.
Yeah, right, right, right. Don't
So
you get reflections from the plastic protector?
no,
No.
because it's matte, it just doesn't
Oh,
reflect.
that's
And
matte. That's got a
yeah,
rough
the
surface.
Yeah, so if I mean, it's hard to show you on the camera. I'll try and get it there, but if you look
Oh,
there,
yeah, yeah, I see, yes,
it's a matte laminate pouch. That's the key, so that
okay.
you're not creating reflections in the background when you take your
That was
pictures.
the
If you
problem
use
with
it in
using the
flash.
tablet, even though it's got that kind of surface on it, it was
Yeah,
too reflective, too reflective.
yeah. So yeah, I just printed that, and when I started using them, people were screaming out for them. I'm like, well, you can just create your own. So what I did is I created a video showing how to create
Mhm.
textures, but at the same time saying if you want to support the channel, then you can just go and buy mine. And people they pop along once in a while, buy a pack, which helps to support the channel, helps to pay the bills, keep the channel going, basically.
Yeah, I
Which I
noticed you've got some really cool merchandise too, which is something I have been meaning to do for about 4 years, but just haven't got around to. Is
yeah,
that
yeah.
is that something you designed? I love the design on the coffee mug.
Yeah, that was a design that I paid for. I didn't design it myself. I paid for the rights to use it. And again, I did it because people were screaming out for it, but
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
really something I support that much, to be honest with you. I'm not really that fussed about merchandise, you know.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mostly like to put out products that would help people with their photography rather than them walking around with some
Good
t-shirt
point.
on.
Good point. Never really thought about that. But
Yeah,
has it
but
always?
it's sorry to interrupt you, but
No, no, no.
mostly it's because you hardly make any profit. It's mostly the company printing that makes all the profit.
Yeah, I learned that too.
You
That's the
know,
other
it's
reason I
just not
didn't bother
worth it.
doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
you end up with breaking even basically. But if it's good
Mm.
for the viewer, if the viewer wants it and it doesn't cost that much,
Mm.
then it's worth doing, I suppose.
Well,
But
getting back to equipment,
yeah, yeah.
we
Let's
do
do
seem
it.
to veer off a little bit,
That's
don't
all right.
we?
That's all right.
But
That's what
now,
having a nice conversation's about, anyway. But
now this lens is a 2 times lens on a full frame camera. If anyone doesn't know crops, the crop sensors and all that stuff, just ask Alan, he'll explain it.
now
But if
that,
I get to a situation where I've got something just a little bit smaller, I pull out the holy grail of macro lenses, which is the Canon MPE 65mm lens.
yep.
Compensates for something, but
Yeah,
that lens
they stopped
is
making it this year.
they've stopped making it. I'm on the fence whether I want to see an RF version of this lens come out because one, it'd be a great addition to the lineup. Two, my wallet wouldn't like it. That's
They
for
wouldn't.
sure.
They
But
never went down in price, did they? They stayed
no,
high from
no.
day one.
But this one's a great input. I wasn't paying the price that I was asking in the UK for them,
What were
and
they selling them for?
I paid about £700 for this,
Yeah, that's about
brand new.
that's
Yeah, but
it
that
is a wonderful lens. I must
it
say,
is, it really is.
I because of the fact that most of my I don't use camera lenses hardly at all.
Yeah,
So I'm always using microscope lenses, and when I first met this lens, I was thinking it can't possibly be sharp at 5 times magnification. And I've since learned to just keep my mouth shut and enjoy the pictures that people take with it
yeah.
because they're fantastic.
But again, it is an auto aperture lens as well. It's manual focus. So the focus ring here, which people call a focus ring, I'll call it a magnification ring. It's just basically you select your magnification.
Right,
Okay.
right.
But again, it is an auto aperture lens, so the aperture only closes down when you take the picture, which again helps with the focusing, which
You
is
have to have that,
fantastic.
I'm sure. I noticed that you do a lot with Laowa. You've tested a
Hmm.
lot of their lenses, and
They've been a good supporter of the channel.
oh, they have been
So
good.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you're one of their ambassadors.
No, I am no one's ambassador. I ain't no one's pimp.
There you go. There you go.
No.
Good
Companies
for
have tried
you.
getting me, but I don't like how you have to push their products, you have to use their products, and more importantly, you can't complain about the products either.
Oh, yeah.
So no, I'm not a Laowa ambassador. I'm not associated with iWix, no matter how much they try pushing it in their advertising campaign. I'm not associated with Canon. I literally just use the gear I have. I mean, the reason I have Canon is because it was bought for me. My first EOS R was bought by my friend, who again bought my first camera.
Mhm.
and you kind of stick with the same mount because the change mounts cost
Yeah,
a fortune.
it does, it does, and
FYI, if I was to buy a camera for Macro, it would be an OM Systems camera. I'll put
mhm.
that out there. I have been in talks with OM Systems about borrowing some of their gear, but they can't help me out for reasons of supply. Basically, they said if they can't get enough stock out to the people that are buying it, they can't give me one to borrow, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
What camera were you looking at?
any of them, to be honest with you. I just wanted to try the Micro Four first because I've never tried it. And I keep getting asked about it, and I can't. I'm one of them people where if you ask me a question about a piece of gear that I haven't used, I can't give you the answer.
Yeah,
I just, I haven't used it, so I can't give you
yeah.
an answer to it. So I would like to, get Nikon. I'd like to get Sony, get their lenses, try them out. It'd be
I
nice to have a
love
catalog of images just to compare all the different systems and lenses. It'd be
Yeah,
really nice.
there's so many variables that I have a good friend, a macro photographer locally with the Olympus system, and I love it. I mean,
Mm.
it takes getting used to, but so did that lens you're shooting with. That's the two to one macro lens, right? That 100.
The 100 mil is a 2 times macro lens, yeah,
Yeah,
and then the
that I
MP is
found
5.
very
Yeah.
difficult to get comfortable with at first because
Mm.
I'm used to shooting at the 1 to 1 with a macro lens, so everything was a bit
Yeah.
bigger and a bit closer than I was used to. But
Mm.
lovely lens,
Oh,
very
it's
bright, solid.
as I like to say, again, I'm not an ambassador. I like to complain about that lens. I've broken the focusing on it twice.
Mhm.
It's if I can show you this, let me get it off so I can see it. So
Have
for
you got a
anyone out
filter?
there there we go.
Do you have a filter
So,
on the front there?
yeah, because Laowa designed it in such a way that the the opening is, like, open. I can literally poke my finger right inside the lens,
Yeah.
which when you're poking that in a bush after spiders, that's not a very good design. Fortunately,
No.
they have updated the design on their 90 mil. It's a fixed front lens now, which is great. One thing I do like about Laowa is they will take advice on board when you
Yes.
when you when you tell them. The
Yeah.
focusing is broken. You see how it's slipping? I don't know if you can
Yep.
see that very
Yeah.
clearly.
Yeah. Can see it definitely. That's a
So,
lot of slip. And you say it's done that before,
yeah,
or
it's
is
a
that the
design
foot?
flaw. Yeah.
So that will
But
they take it back and tighten it up?
they
And
they've yeah, they do take them back and tighten them up. They have done it once before, and they have offered to have it back and, fix it, but I'm like, "It doesn't affect my photography, and I
okay,
don't use that lens for video," which we'll get onto in a minute.
right,
So I'm like, literally, I mean, it's like with any other lens. I set the magnification to what I want, which is usually 1.5 times, and just leave it there, and then just go out and photograph whatever it is I'm after.
got it.
Um, but yeah, great optics. Build quality's a little bit iffy, but they're on the up and up. I think they're getting better at doing what they're doing, basically.
I like the price too. It was a
Yes,
$499, I
four
think.
450, I think, for that one,
Yeah,
if I remember
it's
right. I
about
think the
that
90
price.
might be 500. I'm not too sure. I'm not up on the prices, I'll be honest with you.
The new
But
mirrorless Nikon lenses are $1,100, I think. For it's just crazy. It's getting so
yeah,
expensive.
crazy. But yeah, whenever Laowa contact me and go, "Oh, we've got a new lens coming out. Do you want to try it out?" I'm like, "Yeah." In fact, I've got there's something might be interesting. I've got this bad boy to test out.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I've wanted to give that
Upside
thing a
down.
try.
There you go.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
one's this one's the Periprobe one,
Oh,
the new one. Yeah, the
oh
new one.
no, I haven't seen the new one. It's
No,
a
this is
it's a
it's like a telescope.
20 degree. I mean, a 20 millimeter lens.
Oh, there we go. There you go.
Oh wow,
Periprobe one. So you got a right angle.
right angle at the end. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but you also have the normal one that you can fit onto it as well, so you can actually change it over
Very
depending on what you're
nice.
shooting. I love the thing. I haven't done my review yet. I'm still doing it because
Have you
again,
done some? You've had it out
well,
though and used it.
oh yeah, I've had a play in the studio, but I'm just waiting for the insects to start coming out so as I can get some genuine footage because I
Yeah.
can't do a review without taking it outside and
No,
trying it on some insects. But
no.
everything's
We
just seen all the hibernation at the moment, even in the UK. And I keep telling Laowa, like, well, have you finished with it now? I've had it. I ain't kidding you. I've had it at least 4-5 months.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have a piece of
but
We Macro equipment that's been about that long that I need to get on the stick with. At the end of last year, one of my viewers donated the 14 millimeter wide angle macro lens. Have you used that from Laowa?
yeah,
That's,
that's a fantastic lens in the correct situation.
yeah,
So
but
it's basically the same as the probe lens.
mhm. Yeah,
You
special
could have it in
lens.
yeah, you could have it in your bag and not use it for 12 months, and then all of a
Oh,
sudden you'll get a situation where that's just screaming for the
yep.
14-inch or the probe
Exactly,
lens.
exactly. But it's a lovely lens, well built. I can't wait to use it more this
Have
year.
you
So
tried
what
it at
about
1-to-1 yet?
with this, with the wide
With the
angle?
wide angle, yeah. Have you
Yeah,
tried
we
it at
did a
1-to-1?
wide
Yeah.
angle competition, and I did some a demo thing that went at the beginning of the competition, and I got some pretty decent one to
Yeah,
one. You don't have
it
any room to play with.
oh god, no. I mean, at 1-to-1, you're literally touching the front
You are a
element.
millimeter away from your
It's
subject. Yeah.
I mean, if you've paid for it, you're gonna scream. If you haven't paid for it, you're gonna scream even louder because you don't wanna damage it and send it back.
Now, I put a super thin UV lens filter on the front just for that, and it
Mm,
worked out pretty well. What do you
yeah, but
use for your video? It's
that
you
one
have
is
a
that's
fantastic image. I must say that your video has always been good, but it's great now.
let's talk about macro video first.
Yeah,
That for macro video, I always use the Canon EF 100mm lens. I
yeah,
am looking at swapping this for the RF 100mm just for video. I
hmm,
don't use it for stills very often. Sometimes I use it just to mix things up on the channel, just so I'm not using the same gear all the time. But generally, if it's just my work, I use that one just for video because the autofocus on these mirrorless cameras are fantastic. And in fact, let's be honest, the EOS-R is not the best camera. There's, it was the first mirrorless camera that they did. They now got the R5s, the R6s, the R3, whatever.
yeah,
There's loads of them.
yep,
But the EOS-R will actively track a spider going across the frame if you click on it with that lens. It'll just track it across and keep the focus in on the spider.
and
So I'd
that,
hate to think what the R5 will do.
yeah, yeah,
You
and
know?
you're doing all of your video in the field handheld then.
Mostly, sometimes use tripod depending on the situation. Again, I hate tripods.
Yeah,
But what I tend to do is I will place it like it's going to be hard to demonstrate this, but let me just stand
it's
up. So I'll kneel down and then just put the camera on my knee like that
yeah,
to brace it.
yep. Having the
Um,
battery pack must help that. That's got a very wide base on it, doesn't it?
yeah, it also makes the camera heavy, and a lot of people don't realise, but the heavier camera, the more stable the camera is. It
Yep.
does give you a bit of fatigue after a certain amount of time, so there is room for lighter setups. But again, both you and I can't tell someone go for light setup or go for heavy setup. That's something you have to find out
Yeah.
yourself as to
It's all
which you prefer.
feel.
Yeah, at the
It's
moment, I
all,
prefer my heavy setup because I am leaning towards video a lot more than photography lately. And the heavier the setup, the more stable it is when you're trying to get that footage.
yeah. How much your videos are well timed. I mean, I love the way you can get all of your points across so succinctly. Something
Mm.
I've struggled with from the beginning. But how much footage do you have to shoot for one of your videos where you're doing video in the field with through
In
the
the
macro
field,
lens?
we literally film everything. And then it's just cut up in the editing room.
Yeah,
That's literally I mean, the missus, she just literally films everything. Even when I'm not telling her to film, it's literally film everything because
yeah,
if you got too much, you can throw it away. But if you get into the editing process and then all of a sudden you find you haven't got a certain shot,
yeah,
you've either got to fill it in with some stupid stock video that don't even match what you're talking
yeah.
about, or you've got to go away back out there to refilm and get it. And I'll tell you now, I haven't managed to do an outdoor video where I haven't had to go back and film something because there's always something. You always forget something. And I'll tell you what it is. It's mostly the gear because I get into the habit, and I don't know if you do this, but I get into the habit of recording videos for my subscribers that
Hmm.
already know what I'm using. But then when you watch the video and you think about it from a point of view of someone who's new to the channel, they don't know what you're using.
Yeah,
So I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to add the gear list. And you don't want to do B-roll of your camera on your desk when you're doing an outdoor video. I want it in the outdoor, so you have to go back
Yeah.
out there, refilm it. And FYI, when I did it last time, someone was having an affair by the pool, which was quite entertaining. They're sneaking around. He's behind his wife's back. She's giving him little presents. What did your wife say anything about this thing? And we turn up with 2 cameras and all these lenses. And at the
Yeah.
time we had the EF 500mm lens as well. This massive
Oh
lens. And
dear.
they were like, "What's going on here then?"
Busted.
Yeah, busted, man. But yeah. Some of the things you see is just, I don't know. You've probably got some stories you could tell when you've been out and about filming.
I went through a period last year where I ended up getting in an almost pushing match with 3 separate people over my camera, because I had a long lens on it, and people around here are not very forgiving of that kind of thing. Anyway, we're going to.
We've gone off a little bit again, haven't we?
We have, but it's
anyway, that's what I use for the macro video side of stuff. For the general purpose, every outdoor, indoor, I'm currently using the EOS R in 4K. But what I've recently changed from the 35mm lens to the 24mm lens, which is what you're seeing there. So that's the RF 24mm lens right there. And it's a fantastic little lens for the price. It really is. I was on an R-ring whether to get the 15 to 35mm lens, but at the price cost of $1,500.
Yep. That's one of the holy grail lenses, the zoom, the wide angle zoom. Yeah, it's just I couldn't justify it either. Why did you go with 24? But just as a video maker, I'm interested. Why did you go from 35?
Because the EOS R in 4K is cropped. So the 24 would equate to a 35mm on a full frame sensor.
Yeah.
And I like the 35mm look. Yeah. And basically, when my friend bought me the EOS R, it was supposed to be bought with the 24mm, but they kept delaying it, and the only one available was the 35. That's why if you watch my recent videos I've done, I'm always like, right up in the camera, in the viewer's eye, like I'm right up there. Whereas this was the view I always wanted from the beginning, was this wide angle type view.
Yeah, it works. So it works well.
The downside is if I upgrade the camera, I have to change the lens again, because 24 will be too wide on a full frame sensor for my liking. But I've kept the 35 just in case I upgrade. I never know. I might come into somebody this year. You don't know.
You never know.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, you do. I usually know.
Oh God, it's a struggle.
So tell me, you're well known, as we said at the beginning, for your subjects, the way you interact with nature and with your subjects.
Yeah.
Has that always been in your nature to be that way, or is it photography that made you particularly?
It's photography made it that way. I'll be honest with you. Even just recently, the last few years, I've done a few things that I've looked back on and I'm thinking, I really shouldn't be doing that. From a teaching point of view, I shouldn't be doing it, because I know what I'm doing. I know how to handle the subjects. I know, for instance, if I was to go outside, grab a jumping spider, bring it into the office, photograph it, I know it's safe because I can treat it safe. But other people might see that and think, I can just do that, and it doesn't matter what happens to the subject. I've seen one video on YouTube where someone is photographing a jumping spider and they put a little mini tripod in a dish of water to stop it jumping off. Well, FYI, it didn't stop it jumping off. It jumped off straight into the water, and that's just a no. Don't do that.
Yeah.
If your subject doesn't want to be photographed, I just don't photograph it. It's as simple as that. So generally, like I said, in this new chapter, I am going to explain things a little bit more detailed in my video to say, look, I'm photographing a pet jumping spider. The reason I'm photographing it is because it makes it easier for me to show you how to photograph one.
Yes.
It doesn't mean go outside, grab a spider, bring it in and whack it on your table and photograph it. Everything I do in the studio is to set up the camera, learn how to do it, so that when you're outside and you see a jumping spider, you know exactly how to capture that image.
That's very interesting. So photographing the spiders in your studio, especially the really beautiful ones,
Yeah.
that is that's part of your teaching, but not
Mm.
the end goal in itself.
Yeah, it's YouTube. YouTube is a bad influence. I'll tell you that now. If I wasn't doing YouTube, I would just go outside and practice outside because it doesn't
Mhm.
matter if I don't get an image. But
Right.
when you're documenting it for YouTube, then you can't I can't just go out and go, "Oh, look, I've snapped a picture of this jumpy spider. How great am I?" I need to be able to yeah, my viewers need to be able to do the same thing. So
Yeah.
in a studio environment, it's a lot easier to teach macro because you've got control over the lighting, you've got control over, your camera and everything,
Yeah.
and you've got a spider that's not scared of you, it's not gonna run away. So you're able to do, say, very slowly, you need to focus on the eyes, you've got to diffuse the light. With the spider I got just here, which I will show you. In fact,
But
he's in his hammock. But literally, I can get him out and I can do like half an hour to an hour. I can photograph him with just the bare essentials. I can photograph him with just a flash, then put the diffuser on to show the difference in the lighting. You can't do that with a wild jumper because you take one shot and it's gone.
yeah, yeah.
And for comparison, to show the people, A, B, C, D, this is your different lighting. The pet jumpers are just they're invaluable for teaching.
How
They really are.
you say pet and
Mm.
he's predictable and slow. Do they come that way, or do they learn to be that way around
They
you?
learn when you first get them, they're all over the place. They really are.
Are they?
If yeah, I'm sure you probably picked up a wild jumpy spider, and now they're just
Oh yeah. I
gone.
mean, it's my favorite subject to
Mm.
photograph in the wild.
That is how they come. I mean, they usually when you buy them, they usually come in these little pots, and they're very scared. They're very skittish. They'll jump all over the place. But the more you handle them, the more they get used to you, and eventually they just see you as part of the environment, and they just like to explore and just look around. And
Do
when
you,
they get to that period, that is when they're great for teaching macro because you've got a reliable subject. The jumping spider, it's got some reflective surfaces as well as dull surfaces. So for testing flashes and diffusers, they're just great subjects to test with.
where do you get them from?
Online, I have a supplier that's quite close by.
Oh, okay.
She breeds the jumping spiders, and I only buy. I've got to get this point across, okay? So I might go on a bit of a rant. I only buy captive bred jumpers.
Hmm.
Most websites will tell you whether they're captive bred or wild caught. Do not buy wild caught jumping spiders because that's just not right. Plus, your wild jumper might be pregnant as well, which I've seen it online 100 times where someone's bought a spider from a shop. It's then laid an egg sac and they've got 100 little spiders running around and they don't know what to do with them. And I'll be honest with you, most of them will just die because they don't know what to do with them. You know.
Right.
So I only go to good suppliers, people I recommend and trust. I only buy captive bred spiders, and I only buy spiders that you can't get natively in the UK. If I want to photograph a native spider, I'll go outside and photograph it. Okay,
Sure.
I don't capture spiders from the garden, bring them in, and keep them as pets. That's just something I don't do.
Right. Right. No, I get that.
So that's my rant over. Anyway, so
What is your
you can
favorite spider to photograph from when you buy one from overseas or from wherever she
this
gets them from?
This is hard. It's a hard one. Okay, my favourite one is a pale regal jumping spider, which
Hmm.
is a Phidipeus jumping spider. Okay, the problem with the pale ones, it's basically like an albino.
Hmm.
You're not guaranteed you're going to get one, even if they sell you it as a pale. I've seen it loads of times in pet shops. Pale Bahamas jumping spider. Even if you buy one of them, you're not guaranteed you're going to get the right one. Now, if I just share my screen, so let me show you a regal jumping spider.
Oh, that is
Yes,
so beautiful.
so that is a regal jumping spider, and again, a pale regal is basically like your albino.
Hmm.
You got an albino rabbit; it's white with pink eyes. It's basically like that. So if I bring up now a pale regal, which I absolutely love. That is a pale regal jumping
Oh,
spider. It's the same breed. It's a female again, but you can see the difference in the colouring. And they are very, very sought after in the pet industry because they are so rare to get a pale regal. That is probably my favourite
Beautiful.
one. It really is my favourite one to photograph.
How I don't know that there's a sensitive way to ask this question. How long do jumping spiders survive in captivity?
2 to 3 years after good care. I am going to be doing an updated care video for the channel. So anyone who is interested, keep an eye on the channel. You're going to see a updated care video because I'm a macro photographer, but the most popular video on my channel is my jumping spider care video.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought I'm going to do a new one because I've learned some things since I did that video. So I'm going to be putting out a new
Well,
video
what
later in
have
the
you
year.
learned? How do you care for one of these tiny little invertebrates?
Since I've actually got this enclosure that I get from my supplier, and these enclosures are so far superior to the ones that you can make yourself.
Hmm.
So in the video, I'll be saying, look, if you're getting your first jumping spider, pay to get the enclosure. And what a lot of breeders do now is they supply the whole thing. So they'll give you the enclosure, the spider, the decorations to put in there. So you haven't got to go to different websites to buy different things. You literally get the whole thing as a package, put it together, and your spider will be happy as content for the next 2 to 3 years.
Is this a
Another thing I've learned.
physical?
Sorry, come on.
I was just saying, is this a physical shop that you go to get
No, it's
the?
just people that run it from their own homes.
Oh, okay, okay,
But I'll get on to that in a minute because there has been some
okay.
changing since I did that video. What was I saying now? Yeah, another thing I've learned is certain substrates lead to mite infestations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And when you get a mite infestation, oh, it is hell. It really is hell. Because you've always got mites. There's mites in your house all the time. You probably eat them in your
Yeah, oh, yeah,
cereal.
yeah, yeah.
The problem with mites is if they find a breeding ground that they like, they just multiply exponentially to a point where you've got mites running over your monitors, you've got mites running over your camera equipment. It's hell. In the video, I'll explain how I get rid of mites, but basically it's vinegar in water, you just spray them and dry out the enclosures to get rid of them. And what I
And
found is this,
they come. The mites come on the spiders. That's where
yeah,
oh,
they are very hard to get off the spiders. And what you have to do is you have to basically feed them with water so that the spider gets its hydration, but the mite doesn't. And eventually the mite will dry up and die and drop off your spiders. But that's going to be at least a 5 to 10 minute conversation on the video about mites because it's the side effect of keeping invertebrates is these mites. They're just
yeah.
horrible. They really are.
Does it
But I
seem
found
to bother the spiders themselves? Are they irritated by them?
not the mites I've had, but I have heard there are certain mites that can kill tarantulas and stuff like that, so you do have to be
Oh,
careful when it comes to the mites.
you
So I
don't
found
keep
some
those
nice
big
subject.
spiders, do you?
No, I've tried. I've had bad experiences with them though. Any spider, any invertebrate can die all of a sudden during a molt, and my spiders they quite often die during a molt, and I'm like, the jumping spiders I have for the reason of teaching macro photography. They have a reason to be there. They are pets. First of all, they're pets, then they're subjects for teaching macro photography. But the tarantulas, they were just for fun. So I stopped keeping them. It gets you down when you wake up one day and your spider's dead, you
Yeah,
know?
well, that I was thinking that about just having the jumping spiders.
Mm,
I live in a part of the world where jumping spiders are everywhere, and
yes.
they live inside my house, and they have forever. I won't let the bug man spray the house
Mm,
inside
yeah.
because it'll kill the spiders, and they will come up on my desk, and I photograph them and then they'll disappear again. And I don't know
Yeah.
where they live or what they do, but I certainly understand that they're free spirits. But
Yeah. Yeah.
how do you how do you deal with losing a spider that do you name these things?
I used to. I generally let the channel members and my audience name the spiders now because I keep running out of names. So I'm on to Bungie the Third. He's up there. Yes, I'm
So
on to Bungie the Third. He's up
Bungie the
there.
third.
Yeah, it's because his little bungee cord, so I call him Bungee.
Oh, got
Because I
it.
don't think you know with jumping spiders, they put down a little cord. So if they
Yeah,
fall off anything, they've got a little bungee cord that they can climb back up. And they stick them everywhere. And after you've had a photo session, you're constantly cleaning up your equipment. Your hands will have all bungee cords all over them that
yeah.
you've got to clean up. Yeah.
Oh, I've
But
got lots of pictures.
when you get one you really like the pale one, it is gut wrenching when you wake up and they're in the death curl, which is basically when they're upside down like that.
Yeah,
And anyone who's keeping jumping spiders, I'll tell you now that it can happen at any time. It doesn't matter if you've done everything right, you can still wake up and find your jumping spider dead. It's just
right.
one of those things, you know.
Well, yeah, I
Um,
mean, they just don't have that long a lifespan, do they? What do they eat?
no. Oh god, they'll eat
I
anything they can get
asked
their
what they
fangs
eat, and
into.
I've got pictures of them eating everything under the sun. I
Yeah.
mean,
If it
that,
moves and they can grab it, they'll eat it basically.
yeah,
But generally, I feed mine blue bottle flies. When
yep,
you first get them, they're too small to have blue bottles. So you feed them with fruit flies
hmm,
and fruit flies. They're an absolute menace. They really are. You open the tub and they just go everywhere.
yeah,
Oh,
uh,
so it's so great when you spider molts and it's about the size of a green bottle fly because then you can start getting green bottle flies. We can feed them the maggots, the mealworms, locusts. You can feed them as well. They'll take anything that they can take down basically, and they'll take down something that's twice the size of them as well.
you've never had one get so tame you just let it out in the house to go find its own food,
Yes,
really?
I had a lazy one. He escaped from his enclosure. And I didn't even notice until I was feeding my spiders one day, and he was just sitting there waiting for his fly, and I'm like, "Well, if you're gonna sit there and just let me hand feed you, then I ain't gonna put you back in the tub." So he literally sat up the corner, just every 2 days he'd have a fly off me, and he'll return back to his corner. 'Cause they're basically as long as they're getting food, they don't really wander that far off.
Yeah,
Know?
yeah,
And it's I learned that when I went to the breeder who breeds them for me, and she had one sitting on her shelf, just sitting there. And she's, I was like, Augusta, you got a spider? It's like, oh no, that's its home. Just lives there. I was like, seriously, it just lives there, yeah. And I had one do that to me. He escaped from this closure, and he was perfectly happy just sitting on the window ledge. He actually made a nest just under the light. I'm assuming because it was warm there because of the lights.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
just, every 2 days I'd offer him a fly, and he'll take it. Go back into his little hammock, and he was perfectly happy. He was.
I've been struck by the fact that they're like dragonflies
Mm,
in the sense of they just don't seem to be afraid. They're a bit skittish. Even within minutes of meeting one out in the wild, they seem to get comfortable with the idea of a camera and
yeah.
almost pose. I mean, it's bizarre.
Quite often they'll jump on the diffuser on the front as well because they see this bright light and they're just like, "Oh, I'll have a look at that," and they just jump at you,
Yep.
you know. And then with all the gear that you've got here, you got the filter that's on the front of it, and you got the adapter for the Go docks. You get a spider that's like 2 millimeters in size jump on your camera, you literally freeze. You're like,
Yep.
Where is it? Because you don't want to move in case you hurt it, you know?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't start screwing stuff up because off of me, because if it's gone inside the filter threads and there, you're starting
Absolutely.
to screw, you're gonna hurt it, you know? So it is quite scary sometimes when that happens.
Have you had an opportunity to get out of the UK to go see these spiders in their natural
No.
habitat? Have you ever wanted to do that?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things on my bucket list. One is I wanna go to, America and actually photograph regal jumpy spiders in the natural habitat. That's something I really wanna do, and I
Yeah,
really wanna photograph peacock jumpy spiders in Australia. Um, but it's the
yeah.
funds, you know. As you know, YouTube don't really pay you much, unfortunately.
Oh,
So that ain't happening
they don't
that ain't
pay you
happening anytime
anything.
soon. God.
Well, if you ever make it this far over to the United States, come to the South here because
Mm.
we've got we have jumping spiders that mimic
Whereabouts are you?
on the Gulf of Mexico. Um, between I'm near Florida, the end of Florida and
Yeah.
Louisiana.
I've
So It's Alabama, but it's right down at the bottom on the water.
Perfect location for jumping spiders. I might have to make that a date, I think.
Tell me about them. We have we had one that was a mimic of a pseudo scorpion, a tailless scorpion that was so like it that I was photographing it, thinking it was a one of these tailless scorpions, but it was a mimic spider. That we've got every conceivable jumping spider down here. So yeah, you ought to come over. In a weekend, you could probably shoot half your bucket list of spiders. And the other place was Australia. Yeah, that would be nice. But the jumping spiders over there will probably kill you. That's the problem with Australia.
But yeah, I mean, it's on my bucket list. I've had that on the bucket list ever since I started the channel. That, you know, I learned macro photography on regal jumping spiders, and it'd be great to get to their natural environment and actually photograph them in the wild. You know, it's like a complete circle.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier that you're also keeping mantids now.
I keep the odd mantis. I've got a glass mantis behind me. That's just mostly for personal stuff. I don't know what it is about mantises. They just look great. They really do. And it helps to add a little bit of variety to my portfolio, because I don't want it to be all just jumping spiders. And I also have an ant colony now on the shelf behind me.
A what?
An ant colony.
Oh, do you?
So I've got a Korean ant in there. It's it was actually a rescue ant. It sounds like I'm talking about dogs, you know?
Yeah, I must say, I've never heard
I always had a keen interest in ants, particularly keeping them. And I went out last year, and there was an ant on the front, an ant on the front driveway. It's during their flight season, and it was going to get trod on, and I picked it up, and I sat there and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give you a nice little home. So I gave that ant a nice little home. It's got a nice little brood at the moment. I can't show it, unfortunately, because they're in hibernation. And it is a native species of ant. And I'm learning how to keep ants with the native species, because if something goes wrong, if I change my mind, I can easily just let it out in the garden and let him or her go and have a nest in the garden and be happy. You know?
How big a spider? How big an ant is it?
No, they're very small, a couple of millimeters, if that. It's just a native black garden ant that's here in the UK.
Gosh.
It's like, yeah, if you jumped in the deep end and say bought a fire ant colony, and I had trouble with it, you couldn't just let it go. You'd have to destroy it, because you're not allowed to release them into the wild. You know.
No.
So I thought, I'm gonna learn on the native ants of the country. That way, if anything at all goes wrong, if I fear like the colony's going to get lost because I've done something wrong, I can just let it out in the garden and it'll go and do its thing. You know.
Oh man, you would love the ants around here. We've got these wood ants that are half an inch long that live in dead trees, and they're incredible. They've got the trap jaws on them, and they're fantastic to photograph. You'd love them. You don't even need a macro.
My co-host is distracting me. Do you want to come and say hello? Come on, then. I'm sure you'll know her from the channel.
Yep.
Come and say hello to the audience. That's Alan.
Hello. Welcome.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a lot more videos.
I saw your picture in one of your videos. Yeah, you were using the microscope, I think, the handheld microscope. That was you, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was using the handheld microscope.
Did she have a little bit of the COVID you said recently?
Yeah, she had COVID. She then passed it on to my son, and now I think I might have it, to be honest with you. I'm starting to get a sore throat.
Oh, I hope you're not. I had it 3 times.
Bye-bye. Yeah, so bye-bye. Just have to excuse me while I take a drink.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm not feeling 100%, I'll be honest with you. Something's not quite right.
Well,
so I've got a feeling it's going to go through the whole family, you know.
Yeah, Christmas 2 years ago, my kids gave me COVID for Christmas. Yeah. We all had it right after that. So yeah, I didn't care for that at all. Well, I'm conscious of the time. I had no idea it had been an hour and a half.
I'll gabble on.
No, I mean
We
that's
haven't even got onto YouTube yet.
yeah. Well, I think what we might end up doing is maybe seeing if we can do this again
Mhm.
in a short while and have a part two where we can talk about all the other stuff we didn't get to, because I've got a
Yeah.
list a mile long of things that we haven't talked about yet. But this is perfect. This is
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm always available if you want to have a chat, you know.
Let's do that then. We'll
Yeah, you got my phone number, so just let me know.
yeah, we'll do. And
We'll do a part
so
two
what's
because
on the
did
what's on the books for you next? What's the next in this new chapter of yours? You still going
oh
to be
it's still macro. I'm waiting for the insects to all come out so we can start getting outside and doing video, because I don't do the cold.
no,
I don't
no,
do
I
the
don't
cold, no.
either.
So I'm waiting for the insects to come out. We're going to go out and we're going to usually do the normal macro walks. I have macro Monday to do, which I cancelled from last year. The reason for
Yeah.
that is I didn't like the format.
Oh, okay.
Again, I was bringing a subject into the studio, having 10 minutes to photograph it, and from an entertainment point of view, it was great. But from a teaching point of view, that's teaching the wrong thing to
Yeah.
macro photographers who are learning, is that that's not the way you do things. So I did start filming season 2, and I sat and I thought, you know what, this is not the right type of thing to be teaching.
Yeah.
You know, don't grab subjects, bring them in and time yourself to see how long it takes you to take a photograph.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So I've completely changed that format up. What I'm going to do now for Macro Monday is I'm going to select a subject that's been hard for me to photograph, and I'm going to hopefully get the wife to film it in a documentary style
Hmm.
film of me trying to get the shot that I want, such as a crab spider. For some reason, they elude me. I can't seem to get a decent photo of them. I've got a single shot of one that I half decent like, but I would like a high magnification stacked image of
Hmm.
a crab spider, and I think that's going to be Macro Monday. So,
Yeah.
go
I
out
think
there,
that would be a
try
good
to
video.
get but there's rules. The rules are I'm not allowed to manipulate the environment. I'm not allowed to manipulate the subject. It's literally everything is in the wild on a live subject as we find it and get the image that we want. And it's hard to find them in that certain pose. You know, it's like they're like this, aren't they? Ready for something to come and land, and you're like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, they're hard. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, 90% of them I shoot by accident when I'm shooting a
exactly.
flower.
Exactly. So that is going to be the theme of Macro Monday going forward. Is literally it's me trying to get the shot I have in my head,
Hmm.
but it has to be in the wild, not a studio shoot, not manipulated in
Yeah.
any way, just out in the wild. And I think it
It,
might be interesting to see the progress.
it is manipulation. Would that include tilting the stem of a plant to get some light
Oh,
on?
I'll tilt the stem, say, put a background in, so long as it's not disturbing the subject.
Right, you're not
That's
tearing
the
the
key.
leaves off or anything like
Yeah,
that.
so I won't be cutting the leaf off and putting it on my platypod and then photographing. I'm not doing that. It's literally where the subject is. I have to photograph it there. If I can get a background in, I will do that. If I have to twist the branch a little bit, so long as I'm not damaging the branch,
Yeah.
then that's allowed. But anything else, it's got to be all natural, all out in the wild. You know, no chopping stems off and put them on the platypod like I normally do.
That is a piece of equipment that I wanted to ask you about, because I watched your video on it and
Mm.
immediately uh, went out went out and got the clamps,
Yep,
these newer,
platypod,
smaller clamps, and that platypod thing that
absolutely
I've
fantastic bit of
known about
equipment.
them for years, but I've never. It hasn't been delivered yet, but I've
Mm.
seen them for years, but I've never actually seen anybody use it like you were, and love the look of
Yeah.
that
It's a
technique.
great little tool, plus you can put it on your tripod as well. So, if
And
you're in the situation where you know you're not harming the subject, you can cut the stem off, put it on the platypod, put
yep.
a nice background in there and get a nice artistic shot. They work great, and they're very sturdy as well. I mean, I haven't managed to break one yet, so that's saying something.
I'm thinking that it might be useful on my extreme macro rigs for some of the stuff I do with the macro lens. That would be a great way,
I've
especially with
actually
the tripod head on it that
they're
you
they're
did.
they're great for all kinds of things. I've actually got a light that's up on the background there, and that's secured to the background using a platypod.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, I just you screw it straight into the wood. They're great little things they are. They really are.
That's great. You work with the company? Do
I
you?
know the people from the company. I don't officially work for them, and again, I'm not an ambassador for anybody, but they do send me stuff
Is
to
it
use on
an
the channel.
American company or
It is, yeah, it is. Yeah.
I've never looked into them, but it worked. I was impressed with what's that thing at the back? The two little rods, horizontal rods on the back of the platypod. What are they for?
Well, these things.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're basically feet, so you can stake it into the
Oh,
ground.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can
Unfortunately, mine
stand it
doesn't have
up.
any protectors on it, so I keep spiking myself on it. But it's the one I had is an ex demo version of it because
Oh,
they was
okay.
at the photography show this year, and they called me. Well, they called me by and they said, "Yeah, I'll take this home with you. Have a play with that." And I'm like, "Well, "Okay, I'll have a play with
Nice.
that."
Well, I'll let you get back to being dad,
Yeah,
and
I
we'll.
think we definitely need to do a part 2 all about YouTube. I think
I think
because
so. I think so.
my photography and the gear is actually influenced by YouTube. To be honest with
Oh,
you.
everything I do is influenced by YouTube, whether I admit it or not. I
And
mean,
the new purchase for the channel, which is that,
yeah,
which was a
good for
bane.
you.
I had to buy it because my old PC was just it was awful.
Well, when you told me that you were in the middle of a remodel and switching computers, I just did the same thing. This is the M1 MacBook Pro that I use.
Same here.
Love it.
Well, I wouldn't go back. I
No,
absolutely wouldn't go back.
no,
Yeah.
this is I switched 20 years ago. I wouldn't go back either. I don't understand PCs, but anyway. Yeah, next time when we talk, I would love to
Yes.
talk a little bit about the kinds of macro photography you don't do and maybe why you don't, because I think that would be very interesting conversation and something I'd certainly like to hear about.
Definitely, we'll do that.
It's been an absolute pleasure for us to finally get together, and we'll do this again in the near future. And
Definitely.
yeah, we'll have a part 2. So have a great
Might have
weekend.
to get you on my channel and interview you because there are some questions I would like to ask you.
Yeah, I have a feeling you might you might have a couple of hard questions for me.
Yeah, because your style of photography is completely different to mine. You know what I mean?
Completely.
We might be macro photographers, but the style is just completely different.
It is night and day, and I would like to have that conversation. Either way, the ice has been broken, so we'll do something again here soon. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me. See you
All
again.
right, you bet. Bye-bye.